Hello everyone, my name is Saurav Kumar and I welcome you all to my video series of AWS training. We have reached now in part number 6 and here we will be having a look on multiple things. So first of all, let me share the slide where I'm going to tell you what are the topic we are going to cover in this particular video. So we will be covering about the overview of Amazon global and region specific services. We will see the difference and we'll see the example also. What are the services are global and what are the services region specific. Then I will be trying to go through some of the portal walkthrough, that how to log in and what are the services are there and how you can get the list of the all services, those kind of things. Then I will also show you practically that how the global services are different than the region services, and then we will talk about some of the Amazon services which is being offered here in the AWS. So let's begin now. Here from you can see on the screen that we are having two type of services offered by AWS. So some services you can see here that it is going to have global, and some services are actually region based. So this is what I am talking about. Some services are region based, some services are actually global services. So here if I talk about from this list, you will be able to see that we are having some services such as region services are like EC2, meaning that whenever you are making a maybe machine, that time meaning that you are making a EC2 service, you are planning to get a EC2 service or EBS service also, or S3 service or AMI service or Amazon DynamoDB service. So these all services which is listed inside of this bracket, if I maybe try to put them in a bracket, you can see maybe this bracket on the screen. So whatever services are mentioned in this bracket, these all comes under the AWS region services. Meaning that, let's say that for example I want to make an EC2 machine, I want to make a virtual machine, or we call it generally EC2, we don't call it virtual or something, EC2, elastic computing, you can say cloud, or you can say elastic cloud computing. So anything can be the name of EC2. So if you are planning to have an EC2 service, that time before you choose which kind of machine or something you want to have, you have to choose also region. You have to define in which region you want to have that service. But if I talk about other services such as like CloudFront, which is you can see here Amazon CloudFront. If I talk about Route 53, that is something similar like DNS. If I talk about ACS, SMS related service, or if I talk about IAM service, where we create the users, we create a group, we define the roles and all, those all services which is outside here comes as a global services. So once, for example, I create a user account, or if I'm planning to create a user account, that time it is not going to ask me which a specific region you want to create that user account. But if I want to create a EC2 machine, if I want to maybe put any kind of storage things also, that time it is going to ask me which a specific region you want to have that services running. So that's why these category are in the region specific services and these ones are as a global services. Now I'm also going to demonstrate these things when I go to the portal. But before that, let me tell you very clear about it, that whatever service you see here in this list, if you are planning to make them, if you are planning to have that services, you have to choose a region. And how do we choose a region? We should always prefer a region which is nearest to you. For example, let me tell you that maybe I have a company, maybe I'm having an office, let's say that somewhere in India. All my employee who are there sitting inside of it, and I want to have a web server somewhere and that web server I want to keep my website, and the most of the user who will be using this website, who will be working on this website, who will be accessing it, if it is from India, so I will prefer to keep this EC2 running in my region, nearby region. So if I'm in India, I will look for a region which is within India or maybe nearest to me. What if I have a web server maybe, or any other database server for example, and that database server is mostly being used by the, let's say, that American people. If this SQL server or database server maybe is mostly being used by American people, so I will prefer always to run this EC2, to run this service in the region which is within that US. Maybe US is having multiple region there, east region, west region, so that will also we will decide. So generally what do we prefer, that we prefer to keep it in the nearest region where from your users are going to access this service, to have the better latency. Latency means the time of traveling a packet. For example, all of my employees are from India, and if I keep my web server running at US, what will happen? Maybe it will not look like that it is going to take much time, but if I talk about technically, if I go in microseconds, then obviously there will be a latency issue, that the time going from here to the America for every request and coming back, it will be taking a bit more time in microsecond compared to if I keep my server running within my country or within my region. So that's why all the region services which you are planning to get, you prefer always your nearest region to have that service running for you. Whatever you see here outside the bracket, meaning that these services, these are the global services. So when you are getting this service, you don't have to be worried about any region. I'm also going to show you practically these things, that when you are going to get these services, you don't have to specify any region specific. You don't have to specify that in which region you want to have this service. Automatically you will be able to see that when you go to this services option or menu, you will be getting that region selected is global. So meaning that these services are global services, but these services are region specific services. Alright, so now I'm going to go through the portal walkthrough. So to access the AWS service, we can use any of the browser. In the browser, so in the web browser, we are going to type here the URL, that will be aws.amazon.com. That's the URL. We are going to type it to do the login. Here you can see there is an option of going to sign in to the console. In case if you don't get this option, because I have already logged in here, thereafter you will also get option to sign in. So I'm also going to click on this sign in to the console. Keep in your mind this option, sign in to the console, when you are at the aws.amazon.com. So let me click on it. Because I have ever used this browser to log in on AWS, that's why it is having my credential there. Otherwise for you, you will be required to type your email ID and the password which you have used while creating your user account on AWS. So for me, I am continuing with the root user with my login credential. Now it is going to ask me the password for this user account. So I am going to type the password, and thereafter I will be able to log into this. So this is the method how do I use actually this AWS. So here I need to type the password. Then I just click on sign in. So this is how we get the console. This is what called as a AWS management console. Here from all the engineers who are working as a solution architect or solution professional, AWS solution architect, those all people are going to actually work from this management console. Here from you will be able to do all the tasks and the entire training what we are going to do in this series. We will be focused on this console. We have to log into this console and we will be performing all the tasks from here itself. Whatever service you want to run, you want to maybe create EC2, you want to have the storage, you want to have S3 service, you want to have any service, you are going to get them from here. So let me first tell you some basic things on this console. So here you see the services button. So when you will be clicking on this services button, you are going to see all the services which is being offered by the Amazon here in the AWS. You see related to compute, we have services like EC2, Lightsail, Lambda, Batch, Elastic Beanstalk, AWS Outpost, EC2 Image Builder. Related to storage, we have S3, EFS, FSX, S3 Glacier, a storage gateway, AWS Backup. Related to blockchain, we have Amazon Managed Blockchain. Related to satellite, we have Ground Station. Related to quantum technology, we have Amazon Bracket. Related to management and governance, we have AWS Organization, and there are so on. You can see how big the list of services are which is being offered by the AWS, Amazon AWS. Related to robotics also, they have AWS RoboMaker. Others also you can see. Related to analytics, you have some services. Related to security and identity and compliance, we have IAM service which I have been talking about. So I hope you understand. I hope now you can understand how it is going to be. It is IAM. It is going to be global service. If we talk about S3, if we talk about maybe EC2. So we are going to see all of these. Most of them we are going to see them practically. But today I'm just trying to give you the portal walkthrough, how it is actually look like. Then later on, if I go through here this side, we have resource group. So we generally create a resource group where we keep our resources, whatever services or resource we need from AWS, we keep them in a group. Then here we have the username, which username I have logged in, and if I click on it, I have my account details, my organization related detail, my services quotage, how much quotage has been given to me, my billing dashboard, orders and invoice, my security credential and sign out option. Here this option is very very important. Please have a look at it. This is nothing else, it's showing you the region in which you are right now. So whatever you service you apply right now from the console, you will be applying in this specific region which is by default selected by you. So here if I drop down, you see these are the regions, and some of you already know. I think most of you know because we have discussed about it. The total there are 24 number of regions are. So here we have US East in Ohio, US West in California, US West in Oregon. We have one region in Africa, that is in Cape Town. We have Asia Pacific regions also, such as Hong Kong, in Mumbai, in Seoul, in Singapore, in Sydney, in Tokyo. And you see Amazon has given them a specific code also. For example, here you see this is in India. Mumbai is a city in India. So Asia Pacific Mumbai is having the name AP, A for Asia, P for Pacific. Then South 1, because it is talking about entire Asia, so this is in south of the complete Asia, and this is the number 1. If there will be another also, there will be 2, then will be 3, like that. So here you see in the south we have only one. So AP South 1, AP East 1, AP Northeast 2, AP Southeast 1, AP Northeast 1. So in Northeast there are two actually. One is in Seoul, one is in Tokyo. So they have given number 1 and 2. So this way you will be able to also see what is the nearest region you have, and if you are applying for any region specific service, definitely you are going to choose the region near to you. Then the last option we have here is related to the supports. You can have the option of support center, expert help, forums, documentation, training, other resources like that. Here if I scroll down a bit more, you will be able to see something else like build a solution area is here. From directly there you will be able to start or build a solution, like you can directly launch a virtual machine from here also. That is nothing else, it's a EC2 service. You can directly go for build a web application, you can directly go for build using virtual servers. Such services you can directly start from here. There is also something like learn to build. Here you will be getting some video tutorial or lab which you can use to get a kind of training. Thereafter, as we know that cloud service is a kind of service where you pay as you use, right? So at that moment, when we talk about it is a pay as you use service, we are also going to get some bill, right? So how to check your bill? So for that you can go to your account option here, and you will be going to the option of my billing dashboard. Here from you can see how much bill you are having. So let's go to this my billing dashboard. So in this user account I have just created, because of that I have not used or I haven't created any service, I haven't used it. So I'm expecting to have a bill of 0, meaning that there should be no any billing for this user account right now because it is just made. But if you start using it, if you start creating services, if you start creating their virtual machine, if you start using a storage or something, you will be getting some bill amount there. And that billing you will be able to check from this option by going to the users and the option of my billing dashboard. Here from you are going to see, so right now you can see in the graphic way also it is telling me how much dollar I have spent in this user account, how much bill is for me. So here it is telling me what kind of tire service I am using, and month to date usage, how much I have used or request, free tire usage limit, how much I can do. I can go for copy, post or list request of Amazon S3 services which I am using is so there are some of the list, but the basic thing what I wanted to show you here, that is this one. You see my last month how much I have spent, the current month of August 2020 and forecast also. So this way you will be able to see your bill. So we are also, when we are going to do some practical or something, some of the practicals which we are going to perform needed some of the amount there to practice it. Another thing very important I would like to tell you, that in case if you have even created Amazon free account, keep in your mind that whenever you run any service, whenever you create any service, try to make them remove when your task is complete, when your practical is done. Because if you let it keep running, what will happen, some amount of bill will be generated, because that is what the meaning of pay as you use means. If you use it for some specific time, obviously some bill amount will be there. But don't worry about that. In day by day training I will be letting you know that which service we are going to use, which will be paid or which is free, or if it is paid, how can you save the money, or what you supposed to do. But one thing always keep in your mind, that whenever you are making any new service, for example you are making a new instance, if you are creating a EC2 or something, when your practical is done, kindly turn that machine off I'm talking about the machine which you have created inside the AWS, not your personal laptop. So keep that machine off when you are not having use of it, or when you are logging out also, that time check that all the services which you have created or which you have there, make them turn off or stop, so that there will be no any bill, or if there is a bill, it will be very less, which will be almost like zero. So these things we will be keeping in our mind while doing the practical. But yes, by having an user account here, you will be able to perform almost all practical of AWS training. So right now my bill is 0. Now I am moving back to my home page. As we have seen in our slide, what we have observed here, that some of the services are region specific and some of the services are global. So let's take example of any service which is region service. For example, EC2. So how to get EC2 service here? Simply go to services and look here, we have compute related service called EC2. When I click on EC2, simply when I click on EC2, I already do have selected one of the region, but still it is going to ask me once again. Let me show you how it is going to work. So after clicking on that, now let's scroll down. There is an option called launch instance. Here from you will be able to launch an instance of EC2 instance. Let me even show you up a bit. So this is a kind of dashboard which is showing me right now how many running instance I do have in this user account, how many dedicated hosts I do have, how much volumes I have, key pairs, placement groups, security groups, load balancers, snapshots, elastic IP addresses. So here is a list of them, of my resources, but right now all of them are 0. Only the security group is already by default created 1 for my root user account. So here is the option of launch instance. So if you want to make a machine, you want to keep a machine on AWS, this is the option which we follow, launch instance. Click on launch instance. Now there is two options are there, launch instance or launch instance from the template. You remember we have talked about template. Template is what? It is predefined machine settings. So maybe you have created already a template with some amount of RAM, some amount of processor like that. You will be choosing that template and then you will create a machine. So during that process, it will not ask you again what is the processor size, what is the RAM size and all kind of things. It will just pick those information from the template and it will be able to form the virtual machine there. Right now I don't have any template, so I will be going with the option of launch instance. When I click on launch instance, here you see the list of multiple HVM. What it is, you see here, these are some of the options are you will be able to choose from here. What kind of machine you want to have there. And these all are called as a what? These all are called as a Amazon Machine Image, AMI. If you remember, we have talked about this word AMI. It is also like a template. So it is nothing else, Amazon Machine Image. Which image you want to use? So here are the option of image. We have Amazon Linux AMI 2018. We have Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8. We have SUSE Linux Enterprise, Ubuntu. We have Ubuntu Server 16.04, Microsoft Windows Server 2019 base, Deep Learning AMI. So here from you will have to choose. For example, I want to make a instance of running Windows Server 2016. So I will have to look here in this list. Where is that? I can see Microsoft Windows Server 2016 is here. So I will be going with this option, select, and here is the option of choosing the bit. So this is the method how do we choose the Amazon Machine Image. Right now I'm not going to make a machine, I just want to follow few steps to display something here on a screen. So maybe if I choose, let's say that this Windows Server 2019 itself. 19 with the container or without container, just normal one. I can choose any one of from here, and I click on just select. Before I select, it is also telling me some other information also here, such as root device type is EBS. What does it mean? We have discussed about EBS. What is EBS? Elastic block storage. So EBS is going to be already attached with this computer. What kind of a storage it is going to have? It is going to have EBS storage there. What kind of virtualization it is using? HVM. Meaning that it is going to be on the top of bare metal hypervisor. We have discussed all those kind of things. Hypervisor is of two type. We have one type 1, which we have type 2. Type 1 is, we also call it as a bare metal, which directly run on the hardware. So here HVM tells that it is a hardware virtual machine. It is going to be a hardware virtual machine where ENA is going to be enabled. ENA means here elastic network access, meaning that this virtual machine will also have a network access, and it is going to have a storage connected, that is EBS. Of course EBS we know already. So after like that, we just go to select. Now here in this list we are going to get the option of choosing hardware, meaning that how much maybe processor or RAM or a storage you want to have in your instance which you are going to launch from here. You have just decided first, that was the operating system. You have decided with what kind of storage will be there, but now we are going to choose the family, type, virtual CPU, memory, such kind of option. So here you see there are list of multiple options are, you can see from here. Starting from, if I scroll up, you see you can have a machine which is called the category of T2 Nano. It can be having virtual CPU of 1. So generally T2 Nano, T2 Micro, they are having virtual CPU of 1. Memory size, either you can go with to 0.5 GB, meaning that 500 MB, 1 GB, 2 GB, 4 GB, 8 GB. So you can choose what is suitable for your requirement. Which option is suitable for your requirement? Instance storage, most of them are having EBS only. Some of them can go for SSD, where if you go with the type of M5AD large, then you will be getting 2 virtual CPU, 8 GB of RAM, and 1 SSD storage of 75 GB. You can have here also SSD of 150 GB, that will be 1 SSD. So these are the type of the machine. So this type represents actually the compute power of your machine, how powerful machine you are willing to have. More example, if I talk about a enterprise organization, if a enterprise organization is willing to have a EC2 service, they will be choosing such kind of machine there, which is maybe having virtual CPU 64, 512 GB of RAM, a storage EBS, something like that, 75 gigabit of a speed of the internet to that machine. So these are the options. You can scroll down and you can see lot many options are there. The more you scroll down, the better, or maybe you can say like more powerful compute you are going to get. Like you see, some of them are also having 96 virtual CPU, 768 GB of RAM, and 4 hard disk, SSD hard disk, which is too fast, of 900 GB. So altogether it will be like 3600 GB, almost 3.5 terabyte approx. The speed of internet is specified here. So this is a option of choosing an instance type. I hope it is going to be clear for all of you that according to your requirement, according to your services which you are going to run there, you may choose any of this instance type, but obviously later on you also have option to scale up or scale down. So I am going to choose just any normal machine. For example, let's say that I go for general purpose T2 micro. Here also you see it is available for free tier eligible, means I'm using a free user account. So this one is eligible for that. I will be able to use this. So I select it and I go for configure instance detail, this option, configure instance detail. So according to my selection, I will be getting 1 GB RAM, 1 virtual CPU, EBS will be connected, and it will be having a network performance low to moderate range. IP version 6 it will be able to support. So now I click on next. Here you see how many number of instance you want to have, means how many machine you want to have, that one you can specify from here. Secondly, the most important which I wanted to show you, that is here, subnet. In the subnet list, you see here when you scroll down, you will be able to choose any of the region. Why I am getting only these regions here, or it is no, sorry, it is not region, it is availability zone. Why I am getting only these availability zone? Because these are the availability zone is within this region which I have selected right now. We have discussed already about the region, we have already discussed about availability zone. So now I hope it's going to be clear for you when I am showing these things practical to you. Right now what service I am starting? I am starting EC2 service. So EC2 service is a region specific service. So I do have selected already a region, and in the region I also have an option to choose my availability zone. For in case I want to use a region in India, so I go to here, I will look the region that is Asia specific Mumbai. When I choose this region, everything will be reset and I have to go with the again the same option starting from first page, because my region has been changed now. So now if I change this region, I go with it, maybe I choose any machine this time, Amazon Linux, go with this. After choosing this instance type, this time you see in the list of availability zone, you see here I am getting Asia Pacific, South A1, South AB, South AC. These are the three availability zones are there, three aged are there in the specific region which I have selected. We had already the information about these things in the earlier video, that right now as of the March 2020, Amazon has announced that they are having 24 regions and they are having almost 74 availability zones. So in this region, Mumbai region, how many availability zones they have? They have 3 availability zones. So I can choose any one of them, and then I will be able to go for the adding the storage. Here you see, a storage is a different service. EC2 is a separate service. So every service you can even have at 2 different regions or availability zone, or you can keep them even in the same region or same availability zone. That's completely, you are having a freedom of selecting it. So after selecting here this subnet, I hope you will be able to understand what I wanted to show you, that this time I am making a service of EC2. EC2 is a region based service, so I do need to select the region, I do need to select the availability zone. Let's try to have another example. Maybe if I go for the another example, I go to services maybe, and I go for S3 service, that is a part of a storage. S3 means what? It is a simple storage service or solution. So when I go to S3 service, maybe I want to have S3. S3 is as similar like you have OneDrive, you have Google Drive, similar to that, where you are going to keep your data. So S3 is a global service. You see, when I choose S3, it is just asking me to create a bucket, but before that what service I am having is service name is S3. This service is a global service. So if I choose S3 service, you see here, you are able to see that it is telling me what region I am right now in, global. If I choose also, you see S3 doesn't require region selection. because S3 is a global service. So for global services, you don't need to specify any region. It is going to be globally available. It is going to be globally. But when I was using EC2, I was required to choose the any specific region. So right now you see all the regions are unhighlighted. You will not be able to choose them because you don't need. S3 doesn't require any region selection. But in the S3 also, when I talk about creating a bucket is what? This question goes to all of you. Bucket is what? We have, if you remember, we have discussed about one term called as a blob. B-L-O-B. So blob, what was blob? It is something similar like keeping your data, right? Where you keep your data. So blob name actually used by the Microsoft Azure. If we talk about bucket, this is the name used by the Amazon Cloud Service. And what we call it folder in our computer. In Windows we call it folder directory. So if you want to create a bucket term is nothing else. It's the one which is going to hold your data, your text, your image, your MP3, all type of files will be stored in the bucket. So if you want to create a bucket, when you click on create bucket, you see again you have to choose your region. Meaning that the bucket is not a service, it is just the things where you are going to keep your data. So bucket is a region specific, but the service S3 is a global service. The user account is also going to be global service. Let's take example of anything else. For example, now maybe I want to go for any other service. So let me go to service. Let me look for it. Maybe I want to go for S3 Glacier service. What is S3 Glacier service? By the way, I'm already going to discuss very many number of services in detail in today's lesson itself, in today's lecture itself. So S3 in shortcut, what I can tell you right now that it allow you to keep your backup, or it is the place where you keep your archival. You keep your archive data on the Glacier. Like if you have any data which you have not every day in use, but you want to keep it somewhere to have for a safety reason, then you go for the Glacier service. They give you some space where you keep your data as a backup, which you don't use every day. But maybe you need it after 10 years, 20 years, whenever you need it, you can get it back from the Amazon. So this S3 Glacier service, when I go for S3 Glacier service, here also, if I go for creating a vault or something, you will be able to see that I do need to select a specific region. And one more thing I want to highlight here, that you see some of the a specific maybe you can say region will not be also highlighted in some specific service. Like right now in this service, all of them are highlighted. But when I was using a service, like when I go for S3 and I want to create a bucket, when I go to create a bucket, you see here some of the specific region may not be highlighted. That can be because of some of the new regions when they just start, they may not have that service offered from that region. So you see like Africa Cape Town is not highlighted, means I can't create a bucket in Africa Cape Town. I can't create a bucket in Asia specific Hong Kong, but I can create in Mumbai, I can create in Seoul, Singapore. Then again, like in EU, Milan is not highlighted. In Middle East also, Bahrain is not highlighted. So maybe there are new regions, and because of that they don't have started providing this bucket service yet. So this is what I was trying to just demonstrate it here. Let's go to any other service. For example, if I go to service and I look for a service related to security, identity and compliance, I go for IAM service. So when I go to IAM service, Identity Access Management Service, here from you will be able to see how many users account you have, how many roles you have created, identity providers, groups and all. So in case if I want to go to the group, or even if before I go to group, because I am in the IAM, you can see here it is telling me that IAM does not require region selection, meaning that IAM is a global service. So this is what I was trying to explain you these things in this diagram, that there are some service offered by AWS, those are region specific. There are some services offered by AWS comes under the global service like IAM. I have shown you EC2 is a region specific. I have shown you S3. That is again why region specific, because without creating what you can say there, without creating a bucket you will not be able to use S3 service. So when you go for S3 you have to create a bucket, and bucket you are always creating in the within in a specific region. So EBS, ELB, these all are a region specific service, and here this list is all about the global service. So I hope you have now a broad idea or a better understanding the difference between a regional service and a global service. So now I am going to continue with it. With this note I am going to continue from here. I would like to go to now the next slide, where I have to demonstrate some of the portal walkthrough which I have already demonstrated. I have shown you how to do the login. I have shown you some services like EC2, IAM, S3. Even if you want to see ACS, there I can show you. So ACS is something related to SMS. So if you go to services list, here from you will be able to see all the services list. So you can choose any one of them. Why only ACS? You can go for like for example AWS Migration Hub also. You can check for RDS, DynamoDB. It is related to database. So any of this service when you launch, when you start, you will be able to understand from here also either it is going to be a global or either it is going to be a region specifics. Here you see Route 53 related to DNS service. So if I go to Route 53 option, here if I go, I am already into the option of DNS management area, and here you see Route 53 does not require region selection because it is a global service. So this way, whenever you select a service, you will be also able to see the difference that either it is a global service or either it is going to be a region specific service. Now I am continuing to the next slide, and there I will be starting to talk about some of the services which being offered by the AWS. So here you see some list of the services are like application services are such as SQS, Elastic Stream Coder, we have ACS, we have App Streams. So these are some of the application services are offered by AWS. Here we have some of the mobile services. These are deployment and management. This is related to enterprise application. Here we have some administration and security. Out of that I have tried at least to demonstrate one of them, that is IAM. Then we have some deployment and management related, analytics related, networking related, database related, storage related, compute related. We have EC2 here. Storage related we have CloudFront, which is like a CDN. We have Glacier where we keep our archive. We have a storage gateway. I'm going to explain about it, and then content delivery also here. So now I'm going to explain about various services one by one with the proper detail on them. Now let's move to first one, that is EC2. EC2 provide us compute. So we already know this term compute. Compute means RAM plus CPU. So whenever we create an EC2, here is the icon of EC2. So EC2 is going to occupy or utilize RAM and CPU from any of the machine. It is going to provide the power of RAM and CPU. So what is EC2 is actually going to do? This service is going to be resizable compute capacity. Anytime you will be able to resize it, anytime you will be able to go for more or go for less. For example, you have started EC2 service with, let's assume that 2 GB of RAM. Later on you will be able to expand it. You can go for 3 GB, 4 GB, 5 GB, 20 GB, whatever size you want. It provides us a complete control of your compute resources, because being a service, from cloud side that you have self-service, meaning that you will be having a complete control on the compute resource. It is going to help me to reduce time required to obtain and boot new instance. So if you compare with any server which you are having at your home, which you are having at in your office, the time it takes to get a start, if you compare with the EC2, which is service offered by Amazon, if you start the EC2 machine, you will be see the difference there. It is going to take very less time if I compare with the any server. Then it will be it is going to deploy across the region by AWS region or with the help of availability zone. So I have shown you practically, whenever you are making an EC2 service, whenever you are starting an EC2 service, you need to select the regions, AWS region. Also you need to select the availability zones. And thereafter, after choosing the regions and zones, you will be able to choose any kind of operating system. I have shown you there are some of the Amazon Linux also, there is Red Hat Linux also, SUSE Linux also, Ubuntu also, Windows is also there. So you can choose any operating system, whatever operating system you want to run on that EC2. The next service we have, that is VPC, Virtual Private Cloud. So as I have discussed earlier, that VPC is nothing else, it's a networking term used by the Amazon for their networking. So it allows organization to provision a legally isolated section of AWS cloud in a virtual network. Everything, how the instance is going to be connected with your storage, how the storage device is going to have connection with the backup storage, how it is going to have a connection with the disaster recovery site, everything comes under the VPC section. You can launch an EC2 instance in your VPC, whatever infrastructure you have made there. Within that network, you can launch any new EC2 also there. Then organization can use AWS Direct Connect to have the dedicated connectivity from the corporate data center to the AWS. So for example, if any company is maybe, let's say that located somewhere in a specific city, if I take example like it is Cape Town, there is an office. So this is the corporate data center office, and AWS Amazon is having obviously their data center anywhere. So the connection from this corporate office to the data center or to the availability zone of AWS, this connection can be either a normal through the normal internet, or it can be also AWS direct connection, direct connect. Something similar like if you talk about in networking, we get the term like VPN, tunneling or something like that. So a dedicated link can be also there between your corporate office to the AWS data center, and that will be termed as a AWS Direct Connect. The service is known as AWS Direct Connect, same like your VPN in the on-premises infrastructure. Next service we have about the VPC. Sorry, if I talk about the maybe graphical representation about VPC, here you see how VPC is going to look like, Virtual Private Cloud. So here we have the complete Amazon. Within that, maybe you are running so many number of instance, EC2 instance. Each of them can have maybe different private IP addresses, 10.005, 10.006. So maybe this is the IP of this virtual machine or EC2. This is for this EC2, this is for this EC2. So these are the three instance we have. They all belongs to one subnet, that is 10.0.0/24. Then we have another subnet 10.0.1.0, that is subnet 2, where we also have few instance running with that range of IP address. We can use a router to make them connected, and this thereafter this all can be going out. So this network which we have here, including this router and all, including this connection, we call it as a Amazon VPC. Next here we have is networking using Route 53. So Route 53 is as similar like in our on-premises infrastructure we use DNS. So the same task will be done by the Route 53. It is highly available and scalable DNS web service. What it is a DNS, but it is a web service. It offers that DNS task through the web. It provides business and developers of the cost-effective way to route the end users to internet application. End user means your employees of the company, whoever is the cloud service users. So cloud service users will be able to reach, or they will be able to be directed to the internet applications, whatever is hosted on maybe AWS, or whatever service you are running on AWS, with the help of it. It is also a domain registrar. So all the domain name is going to be registered there. Allows us to purchase and manage the domain directly from the AWS. So whatever domain name you want to purchase or manage, that you can also get from the Route 53. Next is networking using AWS ELB. So here ELB is something like elastic load balancing. Every on premises also we use load balancing. What is the use of load balancing? We all already know that if a user is sending any request, the request may go to first load balancer, and load balancer is having connection with multiple instance. So maybe according to their utilization, for example, this instance is already having huge data on it, maybe it is already 90% utilized or something. So obviously automatically the request will go to any other instance. If maybe this instance is busy at that moment, this can go to another instance. So the task of load balancer, as per its name, that it is going to do the load balancing of these all three instances, plus it is also going to give us a fault tolerance. In case if any instance is fail, it's not working, we still have two instances running the same services, offering the same services. So our load balancer will be taking all the load, and it will be only using these two instances to respond back to the user. So ELB is elastic load balancing, which distributes the incoming application traffic across the multiple Amazon S2 instance. Whatever traffic comes, it will be distributing that load to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as many number of instances you have. It is used to apply fault tolerance also by distributing the application traffic, as I explained you. If I compare it with the on-premises infrastructure, like if I talk about Windows Server, we do have their option called NLB, network load balancing. So there are many other company also who provide so many load balancing services or devices. Similar to that, AWS is also having a load balancing service, and that is called as a ELB here, elastic load balancer. Next service we have, that is a storage using Amazon S3. What is S3? Is simple storage solution, which provide the highly durable, scalable and virtually unlimited data storage capability. Same like if you get a paid service of Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive. Similar to that, S3 is also being offered from the Amazons, where you can keep your data, you can store your data, and generally S3 is going to be used to store data which you are having always in use. For example, what kind of data we save in the Google Drive, similar to that kind of data we can save on the Amazon S3. Another thing here is we have AWS storage gateway. So what is the task of a storage gateway is? This is how the gateway works. Whatever files, volume, tapes you have, by using the storage gateway, your machine can have a direct connection with any of the application running there, like Amazon S3, Glacier, EBS Snapshot. There you can directly reach, or you can send your data there by using the storage gateway. Here you see another example. So maybe on premises, means within your office, within your company office, you have maybe a server running there where you have some services running, you have some files there. Through the NFS or SMB, you are going to share, you have shared that data, and here you are running a service called as a AWS storage gateway service. This service will be running where? It will be running in on-premises infrastructure, means it will be running within your company center. This storage gateway is doing nothing else. It is going to use any type of network, either the normal internet, or either it will use AWS VPC, or either it will use any other method. By using that, it is going to send or forward your data to the any of the AWS service like S3, S3IA, Glacier. So you will be able to keep your data securely from your on-premises to the AWS premises because of using the AWS storage gateway. So AWS on-premises, this machine can be running either any virtualized on VMware or maybe Hyper-V, which you are managing through the System Center or maybe vSphere. Here you are having hardware appliances, and what feature you get here, that it transport between on-premises to the S3 or maybe through the Glacier via using HTTPS, meaning that the all transfer of the data will be very secure, and it will be using multi-part upload and local cache also. It will be offering a local cache for your on-premises infrastructure. So here are the two terms are, we get the storage service by using two things. You can just use S3, or if you want to have a secure communication, a separate connection and all kind of things, then you can also go for a storage gateway. Now I'm moving to the next service called as a Amazon Glacier, or one service we call it EBS. Both of them are different. What is EBS is? EBS is simply block storage, and if you remember, it is a replacement of SAN box which we have in on-premises infrastructure. SAN is also offering the block storage. So here Amazon EBS is also offering the block storage where you keep your data. Big data are you can be storing there. It is used with Amazon EC2 instance. So any Amazon instance if you create for keeping the operating system, keeping the data there, whatever you have, files, folder, MP3, audio, text, all things are directly first it is going to be stored on the EBS. It provides the high availability as well as the scalability. You will be able to change or scale up or down EBS size anytime. Plus it gives you high availability because it is also going to provide the redundancy. It supports multiple workload with low latency performance. That's all about the EBS. So here is the example of EBS also you see. Here is your local machine. Maybe this is my laptop, personal laptop. I will be managing from my personal laptop to EC2 instance, which is running on AWS. Then this EC2 instance is connected with the EBS. EBS is like your storage where your operating system is stored, your files and folders are stored. And whatever I want to take backup from here, to keep the backup, we have the EBS internal disk replications also. Whatever disk you are having, you can have internal replication there, so that if one main disk gets down or something, if there is a problem, I can get the data back from the replicated disk from there. We have Glacier also. So if I talk about Glacier, it is a secure low cost storage service. If I compare the pricing part with the EBS size or S3 size, then Glacier is going to be always very cheap. And Glacier, as I explained earlier also, Glacier we generally use to keep the archive data. Archive data means, for example, there is a bank is having a 15-year-old data which they are not using it every day, but they just want to keep it somewhere for safe and side. So they will be getting Amazon Glacier service. Amazon Glacier service will be offering them some storage space like 5 terabyte, 20 terabyte, whatever size they are looking for. So company will be keeping their backup to that storage. They are not going to get every day that data, because Glacier is designed in that way that you will be getting a storage space where you can upload your data, you can keep your data. For example, this is the bank, and here is a storage which is offered by AWS as a Glacier. So whatever computer you are having here, if it is having old data, you can keep a backup, or you can say like an archive file of it. You are going to store them there. You are always keeping which kind of data there which you don't have used in a everyday life. Then in case maybe next year, or maybe after 10 year, after 20 year, after 50 year, whenever you need this data back, you can get this data back. But in some scenario, they have some special charge to get the data from there, because this storage is very cheap. Why they are giving this storage cheap to you? Because you don't always get the data from there. So whenever you want to get the data back from there, they may have some specific charge for that also. That can be one condition. So generally Glacier is being used to keep the backup, not for your daily use data, where EBS is being used to keep your daily use data as well as your operating system and whatever file you keep in your machine which is running on AWS will be also stored on the EBS. Now let's move to the next service. Here I have some comparison, not the service. So I have some comparison between the AWS storage option, because maybe you can get confused that why there are S3 also, Glacier also, EBS there, a storage gateway there. Why do we have such kind of option? So just let me give a quick comparison between them. If I talk about S3, what it is a internet scale storage via API, where you keep your regular files like your images, your videos, your file, your binaries, your snapshots, those kind of information you keep on the S3. I am always comparing it with the Google Drive. What do you have a use of Google Drive? Whatever important data you have, you can keep it there and you can access it anytime. You just log in with Google Drive, you can do work with it. Similar to that, Amazon offer a storage that is called as a Amazon S3. Another we have is Glacier. So for S3, what do we create here? We create a bucket. I have shown you practically when I was going for S3 service, I was needed to create a bucket. So the same bucket we also create when we create using a Glacier service. We also create a bucket there with a specific size, but this bucket is having, you see, extra cover on it. Why such cover is there? Because Glacier, as I told you, it's used to store the archiving or backup. So generally it is like that, you keep data there always. So this traffic is more and this traffic is less, or generally it is only in exception case when you have lost the data or when you have really need of that data of very old backup or something, then only you retrieve the data from there. But most of the time what you do, you just only put the data there. So that service offered from the Amazon is called as the Amazon Glacier. Here we keep the backup or archive of any image, video, file, binary, snapshot. Clear? Then the third category we have is Amazon EBS. So EBS is same like, for example, in your laptop you have a hard disk, internal hard disk, right? What that hard disk is used for? To store everything in your laptop. Whenever you create a new file, where does it get directly saved? Obviously on your hard disk, right? So similar to that, when we have EC2, when we have a machine running on AWS, this EC2 is always having connection with EBS, and that EBS is nothing else, it is a elastic block storage which works like a hard disk for this EC2, where all the operating system plus the data is being stored here. You know, when you are creating a new machine, you always talk about the storage size, 500 GB, 20 GB, 200 GB, whatever EBS size you decide. So there you are going to, it is going to look like your local hard disk. Look like, I am telling you, it looks like your local hard disk, but it is not your local hard disk. Then the fourth category is the storage gateway. So gateway is not allowing you to keep any storage. It is just a option which allow you to have a connection with any of the service offered by Amazon like S3 or Glacier. So this is maybe your on-premises infrastructure. This is your building of the company within your city. So in that building, you will be running a service called as a storage gateway, and this service will help you to connect with your Amazon data center or availability zone where your S3 or Glacier service is running. So it is going to work like a connecting point for your S3 and Glacier. So these are the comparison between S3, Glacier, EBS and a storage gateway. Now I'm moving to the next thing here. Next is database related service. So in our when we talk about on-premises infrastructure, we do have so many type of database server like SQL, MySQL, we have Oracle. Similar to that, Amazon also offer a database which is known as RDS, and also there is one more called as a DynamoDB. What is the difference between these two is, this RDS is a database to keep the data. Which kind of data? Relational type of data. RDBMS type of data will be stored in the RDS, where DynamoDB is a non-relational database. This is used to store data which is non-relational. So if I compare with the on-premises, like if you have MS SQL, if you're running MySQL, Oracle or something in your on-premises, and you want to have same service from Amazon, you will go for the RDS to keep your data there. But if you want to have no SQL type of, no structure query language, no any relational type of data you want to keep, then you will be going for the DynamoDB. So it is fast and flexible database service for all application that needs consistent low latency. If you want to keep your data with the low latency, where you don't have data in row columns in format, then you will go for DynamoDB. But if you want to keep any data which is you want to keep in a rows and column format, like the way your SQL, MySQL, Oracle DB, those keeps, then you will go for the RDS service. So these are every slide I have some icon in the right hand side. Those are the representing the particular service here. For example, RDS is having this icon. For the DynamoDB, this is the icon. Then the next we have is database service using Amazon. Here is the some explanation on it. So some other database related service offered by Amazon is Amazon Redshift and Amazon Elasticsearch. So Redshift is nothing else. It's a very you can say big in size. It provide a petabyte scale data warehouse service for structured data. It provides SQL interface with business intelligence tool. So generally the enterprise company, those who look for a very huge size of a storage, they go for Amazon Redshift, because the storage size you see here petabyte. And there is another one called Amazon Elasticsearch. So this is a web service that simplifies deployment, a scaling of in-memory cache in the cloud. It improves performance of web application. So it's working like, you know, cache storage, where you it keeps the cache of the data, which makes it which improves the performance of any web application. So these are some of the other database services which is being offered from the Amazon. So now we move to the some question answer here. The first question goes to all of you from this particular session, that Amazon is used for data archival and backup. Which service we use actually to store the data archival and backup? Which service of Amazon we use it to keep the data archival and backup? So if you know the answer, then it's good, because these things we have already discussed in today's lesson. Second question goes that the relationship database service offered by Amazon, or you can say like any example of Amazon service which is being used to store the relational database. If you want to keep relational database, which service you are going to get from Amazon? Then the third question, that which is almost similar from the first one, that Amazon Glacier used to store what? What do we store on Amazon Glacier? What kind of information we store there? Then the next question is, what is the use of AWS ELB, Elastic Load Balancing or Balancer? What do we having the use of it? And then the final question, that is AWS Route 53 is similar to which service which we have in our on-premises infrastructure? Or you can just say AWS Route 53 is similar to what? The name of the service which we have, which is similar to AWS Route 53. So this was all about in this lesson. So I hope this video was informative enough for all of you, and I would like to thank you for watching.